fantastic, I think, for me to have Shanmu because I first encountered her work at a great workshop that Devs Sutton organized in India. And I was really impressed by Shanmu's work at the intersection between literature and digital spaces. And since then, Shanmu, well, Lancaster has been quite fortunate as, to have her as a postdoc, although not physically here because of COVID. But Shanmu has been basically working in a project called Digital Innovation in Water Scarcity in Coimbatore in India. But today she's going to be talking about the impact of digital technologies in post-independence English literature. And as always, you are welcome to use the chat as much as you want. Please feel free to ask questions straight away in the chat. As usual, we normally ask you to place the word question in capital letters at the beginning of your question so we can quickly identify by the end of the session which questions we will be addressing and so on. So Shanmu, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patti, for the kind introduction. Good evening, everyone. I'm really glad to be part of this DH Hangout. Today, I'm going to present my PhD project, which I recently completed at IIT Indore. My thesis is an attempt to trace the intervention of technological devices and digital technologies in on post-independence Indian English literature in terms of narrative, publishing, and praxis. Before moving into my PhD project, I would like to say how I got interested in this project. In 2014, during my master's program, I did a small project on Western digital poetry. Then when I came for my PhD in 2015, I wanted to study Indian electronic literature, but something like Indian electronic literature was not really existed at the time. So then I was like, got this broader question first. How do technologies influence Indian literary landscape? So with that broader question, first I started studying about the history of technological devices and digital technologies, how these cultural institutions have begun their intervention in the Indian literary landscape. But this question is rarely asked. That's because we are cognizant of the liaison between technology and literature, since from the codex period to digital for its production, consumption, and dissemination. But it doesn't mean that we need to abandon this question, since the Indian literature, like the field of Indian literature, have not been really materialized before. So technology always embodies the attitude, prejudice, resistance, moral, ethical, cultural, and social aspects of that period. It got introduced, but it never been used as a neutral factor. So though we have been studying the embodied futures in Indian literature, we never used technology itself as a tool to measure and interpret the cultural transmission between human and technology, and how they provide the substance and how they disrupt the conventional mode of production, consumption, and dissemination. So if you look at the history of technological devices, whenever a new technology was introduced, it was never like indisputably assimilated into the social system. So without any interrogation. Then after a period of interrogation and intervention, it becomes ubiquitous and normalized into a day-to-day life. So this transitional period has been innately translated into Indian English novels. But studying the entire period of Indian English novels to understand how these devices have an impact in the narrative is beyond the scope. So again, my research particularly focuses on post-independence period. So again, like closely reading all the novels published over 70 years is also beyond the ambit of the research. So I did both close reading and distant reading of Indian English novels. I will explain more about my quantitative study later in the presentation. So besides this, it is also noteworthy to study how digital technologies disrupt the conventional mode of publishing industry by studying through digital platforms and accounts of contemporary Indian writers. For this, I studied the digital accounts and platforms of both established and emerging writer. writers like Vikram Chandra, Arvind Nadiya, and Chinese Parrott. Then I also studied how digital material and materiality brought a new way of practicing literature on Indian digital space. So with that, I moved to my main part of research. So first I studied how technological devices act as a literary actor in the narration of post-independence Indian English novels. So the presence of technological devices is not something new phenomenon. It has been there since from the early periods of Indian English novels. For example, some of the technologies like railway and electric telegraph appeared in the early periods of novels from like mid 19th century and beginning of the 20th century. So, but these technologies used as a literary objects and they did not function as a moving force of the narration. But this has augmented after the advent of industrial revolution and technological development, both in the colonial and post-colonial India. For example, toilet system and radio. These technologies are used as a literary artifacts because they started intervening in the narrative of the novels. But in this interpolation has been like phenomenally increased after the advent of communication information technological devices such as radio, telephone, television, and computer. And they also have a huge impact on the social and political cultural space. So this is where my research lies. So I closely studied a few novels of R.K. Narayan, Salman Rushdie, and Amita Ghosh. In their novels, I studied how technological devices act as a literary actor. So for the first close reading of R.K. Narayan's The Vendor of Sweets, it is published in 1967. This is actually a story of both two male characters, Jagan and Molly. Molly goes to America to study creative writing but comes back to India with an idea of starting story writing machine factory. But Jagan is a follower of Gandhian ideologies who does not have any belief or interest in technology. According to Jagan, technology jeopardizes the traditional culture. So that's where the anxiety of technology starts. So I consider story writing machine as a literary actor. So if you look at the features of story writing machine, R.K. Narayan writes, this machine would have 4 knobs of themes like love, hate, joy, sad. So the writer has to select the knobs, then the machine will produce the formula for the story. And the writer has to build up the story based on those formula. But this machine also does text mining after once the story is ready. So this is something like cutting edge features of digital technologies nowadays. But R.K. Narayan imagined this kind of story writing machine in mid 20th century. So apart from these fascinating features, what this story tells us that the real anxiety of new technology and the caliber of machine can actually replace the age-old practice of writing and the real struggle in adapting new culture. So no matter what, the social settings will always evolve. So another literary actor is radio, which I studied in Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children. It is published in 1981. So Rushdie used radio for 3 spaces, for example, domestic space, political space, and personal space. For domestic space, Rushdie used radio as an important family member. He also used radio to represent the male-dominated culture. For example, when Ahmadi Sinai's wife wants to listen to radio, obviously she needs permission from her husband. And Rushdie also used radio as a Farah sheet. For example, the major character Salim's sister, actually she's a singer, but she's not allowed to sing in the public. But she can sing through radio. That's because it can function as a Farah sheet between her and the public. So then Rushdie also used radio in the political space, how radio used in the political space. For example, during the war between India and Pakistan, it used as a strategic tool. And it is also a tool for the government. And when it comes to personal space, Rushdie used radio as a metaphor to represent this telepathy power of Salim. He's the major character. So he compares the powers of Salim to IIR. AIR is the All India Radio. So he compares like Salim can travel to the entire country like how AIR reaches each corner of the country. Salim can understand any language from coming from India, like how radio broadcast in many Indian languages. So, but overall, what this story tells us that the accumulation of technology in both social and political spectrum, but it can also used to manipulate for social, political, and gender. It can also influence groups and individuals. So the next literary actor is AVA, the supercomputer, which I studied in Amita Ghosh, the Calcutta Chromosome. It is published in 1995, just slightly before the advent of digital technologies. So actually this story begins when AVA explores an ID card of character Murugan, who goes on missing, but finally finds by AVA. So AVA, the multiple features of AVA creates an interlocking network in the narrative that actually drives and unifies the narration. For example, AVA functions as a digital archive of both past and present, and she also functions as a communication device, and she can also organize video conferencing. So these features create the intricate network, but it also represents the advanced technology of 20th century. So overall, these closely studying of three novels demonstrate that technology is a key defining factor of 20th and 21st century. I am paraphrasing here Anand Mukhopadhyay's quote, and he says that how technology becomes a key defining factor, and starting from food to computer, it becomes ubiquitous. So it is not only becomes ubiquitous, it also brought the conflict between modern and tradition, and nonetheless it becomes integral and becomes an inseparable entity of 20th and 21st century. So as I mentioned earlier, I also did the quantitative study of studying the impact of technology in Indian English novels from 1947 to 2000. So I have 7 novels based on the three criteria: novels from each decade, and the canonical and non-canonical authors' novels, and novels from all sorts of settings. So I particularly focused only 4 technological devices: telephone, radio, television, and computer. I also included the substitutes and acronym during their extraction. I used R software, and I also used keywords in the context and topic modeling tools to extract the result. I extracted 15 topics and 30 terms to each device. I also used raw online data visualization tool. So however, this quantitative study also has some limitations. First is its lack of digitization. Of course, even the early century periods of Indian English novels are not digitized, and there is a gap in the novel production. I actually got more novels after 1980s. That's because various reasons, like the induction of many new publication houses, the increment in the writers, that also because of the many literary awards. And we do not have a digital consortium like Hathi for in India. So that also one of the limitations, and there are many copyright issues. That's because the latter period of novels are recently published, so we had a copyright issues. So I actually bought all these novels through Google Book and Amazon. So in order to like fit with the time frame, so I just will be briefly interpreting the interesting observation from the topic modeling results. First is telephone, which I divided into a discourse of gendered facets, that also including both women and men. House, night, and then associated terms like long picked face, head, minutes, hand, women, evening, years, and even further more terms actually advocate the domestic space. And for men, men characters names and their associated terms like place, international, job, meet, happy, and even other terms are actually represent the social space. In order to understand this complexity of the pattern, I actually endeavored to comprehend the women characters in the literary history. Santa Krishnaswamy, the critic, in her book, The Women in Indian Fiction, actually discussed that the liberation and equality are hard to reconcile for women characters. Even the critic Meenakshi Mukherjee points out that in actual literary practice, numerous characters are found to be adhered to the classic prototypes, especially the women of fiction who persistently reenact the suffering, sacrificing role of Sita or Savitri. Another writer, Steve Turney, actually points out that nationalism, westernization, modernization, and science are mostly associated with Indian men, not women. And also, if you look at the literary history, both pre and post independence period writers like R.K. Narayan, Mulkraj Anand, Raja Rao, Kamala Makanai, actually, they portray the predicament of Indian women. After independence, there are both men and women writers. They were trying to focus on the changing face of women's lives in India. However, women characters fights for their rights, identities and equalities always have confined within the domesticity. So this could be one of the reasons that algorithm picked up only the terms that are associated, domestic related terms that are associated with female characters. Next interesting observation is from television artifact. That also I divided into discourse of characters and discourse of domestic milieu. Few female characters' names and their associated terms like sense, addict, thought, advocate different kind of connotation, and then the male characters' names and their associated terms like election, coming, rich, community, and many other terms actually represent social space. Even we know that television is a domestic property. So some of the terms like tea, dining, food, kitchen represent domestic milieu. But if we closely look at the terms, there also we can find mother and women, female related terms. So to understand this pattern also, if you look at the trajectory of television in India, there as Jayashree Kalanithi writes, there are many historic events of television that actually targeted only audience. Shows like cookery shows, beauty tips, home management that are actually targeted women audience that because they wanted women to adopt the modern behavior. Even if we closely look at the novels that I selected for text mining, there are characters like Kochu, Mrs. Strategy. They are like portrayed as they are addicted to television, and they are also writers portrayed male characters as they are socially responsible person, and then they watch only shows like election, news, and business related stuffs. So this also one of the could be one of the reasons that algorithm can choose up such kind of narrative for women and male characters. The stereotypical representation in both television and telephone becomes even worse even for the computer, because for the computer the algorithm picked up only one female character name and remaining are like male characters names. Even their associate terms like window, webcam, sign, city, street, these all represent something like social sphere. That's because generally technology related fields are considered as a dominated by male community. So writers generally narrates that computer as a source of occupation for male characters, and they use to explore the world and also to represent the skill of the characters. Overall, this pattern of gender disparity tells us that there is a considerable gap in the narrative in terms of portraying the liaison between male and female characters with technological devices. First of all, the number of male characters appeared more than female characters, and if we look at the case study of previous novels like Midnight Children, even though technology used for women characters, but that is only to manipulate the situation. So then gender disparity is something like common phenomenon in India in terms of access to education, occupation, and economics and many other fields. And if you look at the literary history, writers mostly constructed their women characters to reflect the social imperatives like housewives, mother, daughter, mother-in-law, and their boundary also determined within the domesticity. So another important observation is that underrepresentation of women in occupation. So in this record, themes related to technology fields are to explore in Indian English novels. So the next type of study I did, how the digital industries impacted on Indian literary publishing, that I studied through authors, contemporary authors, digital platforms and their products. In this internet era, internet users in India reached actually more than 600 million plus users. So like everyone like to follow the celebrities from sports, cinema, and of course from their favorite writers. Matthew Kissanswamy in his article What at Author says that such kind of digital activities on the platforms actually have changed the notion of authorship. And he also says that digital activities of authors function like an archive, so of which contemporary scholars should not ignore. And another article, Roland Barthes, Death of the Author, published in 1977, in which he says that the personal information of the writer should not be seen as a context for interpreting the text. But the recent article published by Theodore Howlin recently, in which she says that the digital activities of writers become the lifespan of the text. So such kind of digital activities form a new cultural movement of contemporary authors. However, authors are like moderate, active and passive in terms of digital activities. So for this, I also did a case study. First, I studied the digital platform of Vikram Chandra. Actually, I studied only the Facebook pages of all these writers. That's because all these writers are very much active on their Facebook page than any other social media. So first, Vikram Chandra. When we look at the social media of Chandras, he actually very interested in various realms like history, technology, language, and he also recently launched two projects. One is the Transmedia project, Sacred Games. Another one, Grantika, a creative writing app. So he mostly posts about his projects, and for that also he has a set of fans. And for other industry realms, he has a set of followers from various fields like academic and computer profession. So, but overall, what he did, he used his established identity as a professional writer, and he interact with his followers, and he's moderate in terms of posting about his works. But when it comes to Harriet, even we can make a short biography about her career as a writer, because in the beginning she started her career as a freelance writer and posted mainly about her miscellaneous writings, and for that she had a set of friends who follows, likes and shares her works. And but later in 2010, when her first book published and got even won the Sakitya Academic Award, and from that onwards her posts mostly about her professional writings, and even her followers increased from national to international. So in terms of her activity on social media, she is actually slacking many hours not to create an identity of professional writer, and she is very much active in posting and interacting with her readers. When it comes to Aravind Adiga, first of all, it was really challenging to identify whether Adiga has his own page or it is maintained by paid published, or it was by an agency. So in the absence of the presence of the author, so it was really interesting to look at the comment section. That is because Adiga does not interested in present himself on his social media, but his comment section is really active compared to other writers. So I closely studied his comment section, which I divided into 4 types. First is appreciation, of course, Adiga's fan. The second is criticism, of course, not Adiga's fans. And third is contact seeking. Since Adiga does not interested in providing his contact details, scholars, literary organizers, conference organizers, they keep asking his contact details in his comment section. They also trust that he reads their comments. And another like intrusion type of comments, like of course if we not present ourselves in our social media, the hackers will pop up. So that's why there are many unwanted links and posters are appeared in his comment section. So overall, Adiga maintains a proxy identity and he is very passive in terms of posting or interacting with his followers. Overall, this Close study leads to asking a question like whether this digital culture demand the digital identity of the authors. So, to answer this question, if we closely look at the digital industry, readers always searches their favorite writers online. Even the publishing industry also pursued their writers to have a digital presence. And even writers like Adiga, in order to combat their loss of discursive power, they are compelled to have a digital identity. And even writers like Parrot, in order to create their identity and as an emerging writer, they are also pressurized to have a digital identity. So one or another way, digital identity is something like inevitable for them. These writers also use digital accounts as medium of publishing. In traditional medium of publishing, of course, there are a number of gatekeepers starting from editors to book agency. But when it comes to digital medium of publishing, there are no such kind of gatekeepers. But it also has advantages of the work can be published quickly and they can also reach their readers immediately, and they can also insert many hyperlinks, videos and audios, everything. But it also has the disadvantage, like if you cannot maintain the page properly, so it may disappear any point of time. So in that case, Vikram Chandra has a blog in which he writes mainly about history, language, and his creative writing app. And he archived all those blogs properly, and he provided links in his social media page. But Parrots also had a blog on online literary journal, which is one of the first online literary journals in India. She also provided links to her blogs and literary journal, but none of the links are existing now. So she also writes for the digital media like articles, reviews, fiction and fiction for digital magazines. When it comes to Adiga does not interested in any digital medium of publishing, but he published 4 short stories of his second book in various digital media. But overall, what we can understand from this digital medium of publishing, first of all, this digital medium of publishing is intricate enough in digital infrastructure. That is because these digital industries, they update the digital infrastructure for their own commercial purpose. So if we do not aware this kind of infrastructure, so the page can disappear any point of time, like Parrots, blogs and literary journal. So Chandra is a computer who knows something about this infrastructure, so he properly archived. We can access to all of his works. Though there are no traditional type of gatekeepers, but it does also have new gatekeepers. For example, service providers, web hosting providers, domain name registers, search engines, and many other more. So these writers also turn into a creative entrepreneurs because it is part of their culture. So authors are compelled to use variety of digital platforms and techniques to promote and disseminate their writings of both print and digital. So in doing so, they become a creative entrepreneur. But they also follow many innovative dissemination process. For example, Chandra created disseminations for his dance media project, Sacred Games, and which is streaming now in Netflix, and his creative writing app, Granthika. And he mainly uses his celebrity identity to promote and do creative disseminations for his projects. For example, he writes witty comments or witty posts and with some images about his Sacred Games or Granthika app, and he always discuss about these projects with his followers. When it comes to Parrots is focusing only about her novels, and that too she has like really very much focusing creative disseminations. That's because she's started sharing her books, starting from reading resources to book launching, reading events, signing book tours, book tours, etc. So, and she also discussed with her readers about selecting titles and asking about the trailers that she makes and asking the favorite story from her book. And when it comes to Adiga also follows certain type of creative disseminations, and he shares the book covers, design quotes, book trailers, etc. But he mainly shared about the designed quotes from his Booker Prize winning book, The White Tiger. So these activities show that the contemporary writers, the role of contemporary writers expanded mainly from writers to the distributor, promoter, creative animator, and like many other roles. But are they paid enough for their creative digital labor? Is still a question. So next, I studied how digital technologies brought a new way of practicing literature on Indian digital space. Electronic Literature Organization actually published 3 volumes, but if we look at the 3 volumes, there are no work representing from India. There are works from even other South Asian countries, but from India, there is none. So, but we also have a creative elements in our literary practices. For example, Chitrakavi, Gita Govinda, Ragamalliga, these works are from early periods, have very creative interfaces. So, but it doesn't mean that we do not have any literary activities on digital space if it is not published from Electronic Literature Organization. So I identified a few SMS novels, and there are many now social media literature like from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So for Western electronic literature, Catherine Hales and Leonardo Flows actually conceptualize waves of 3 waves of Western electronic literature that's actually starting from mid 20th century to present. But that cannot be applicable to Indian electronic literature that actually starts from 2004 with the publication of few SMS novels. However, these SMS novels failed to produce substantial creators and readers, but the second wave of Indian electronic literature of social media literature, hypertext poetry, prose and novel, they actually received a wide recognition from both creator and readers. However, both first and second wave of Indian electronic literature haven't received sufficient attention from both academic and research firms. And teaching, researching electronic literature, or in other words, topics related to digital culture are overlooked or even unwilling to extend to the Indian academic syllabi and curriculum. However, we hope this will change soon, and we can see many digital culture and digital literature courses, programs, and research in our Indian academic and research institutions. And from IIT Indore, my supervisor Nirmala Menon and I actually called for submissions on Indian electronic literature. We hope to publish it soon, and it will be published through SHIP. So these are references. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanmu. That was really fantastic. You just remind me of why your PhD impressed me so much from the very beginning. And it was, because of the fact that you look at technology from dimensions of technology within, literature to actually, the world of literature and, digital technologies in the world of publishing as such. So thank you so much for that. But that was really fantastic. So should we go into the questions there? There are quite a lot of them. Can you see the chat, Shanmu, or should I just read the questions to you and you can answer them that way?
Yeah, please read it because...
Yeah, that's fine. I know that sometimes it's quite difficult to deal with the chat at the same time that you're speaking. So Ben is asking, is there any contemporary literature, is there any contemporary literature responding to modern text generation algorithms that might now be called novel writing machines?
So far, I haven't found anything, but theoretically, we can relate to some of the works of Vikram Chandra that actually represent some of the email type of narrative, and some of people are actually comparing some of the Western electronic literature to Chandra's work. But this we can relate to Krantika app that he recently launched. That actually Molly's dream from the Vendrop Sweets. Actually, Molly wants to start a factory and story writing machine. But actually now Vikram Chandra did that. He actually launched creative writing app that one can use to write the story, write the novel. So that's actually interesting.
Right, yeah, that is really fantastic. Another question. What do you think is the future of science fiction in India? This was by me, basically. I'm interested in this idea of technology being represented as having agency in general, or, as human beings even, and so on. Is this something that has been widely adopted in literary circles in India? This is to say, science fiction in general?
Yeah, it has really good future. It has been already started, but I actually purposely not looked into science fiction because I knew that there must be lot of technologies
you,
involved.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but I confident enough that I can compare that kind of science fiction technologies to the cultural, socio-political categories now. So, which is why I just purposefully removed the science fiction novels from my list of text mining, both text mining and close reading. So,
sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense, absolutely. Devs ask, in your qualitative reading, is technology in literature often given capacities that exceed the function in the author's present?
Yes. I mean, the question, I'm just trying to rephrase the question. So, which means like the imaginary of the writer, like imagining the technology of the future, right? Dates, am I right?
So I'll just put my microphone. I don't think it was a very clear question. It was just that this isn't, I mean, things like R.K. Narayan, it's not science fiction. It's set in a relatively mundane present, and yet technology, sort of imminent technology, has given this extraordinary capacity.
That's something like really fascinating. Of course, now like the Twitter pod can write this story, like write poetry and story, but actually again, Narayan imagined such kind of environment even in the mid 20th century. Even that time, India had the machine. It's a big computer that can used for statistical purpose. But of course, if someone tried using it for literature, it might have worked, but like it's not that much developed in terms of creative using of technology. But it's really fascinating how Narayan imagined such kind of situation in the mid 20th century. So I'm sorry, I want to add one point that also somewhere like I read about R.K. Narayan that he went to America and of the technological development, he was not really satisfied. He thought like this is like destroying our traditional, so destroying our culture. Maybe he thought in something opposite way. That's why there are many critics that say that says that how Narayan supports Jagan instead of Mali. But somehow during the narrative, he admits that this is something like we cannot, it's not in our hands. Social settings will always evolve, like in terms of technology or whatever other things.
That's really interesting, Shanmu. Another question that I think you did answer to a certain extent, but I think it is quite interesting what you were saying before. So it will be great if you can expand on that. So, do you observe a change over time in the portrayal of female or male characters in their interactions with technology?
Yeah, but not much. That also I can give an example of like how telephone used in India. Even still, like there are a lot of issues when it comes to access to telephone, because in the beginning only the privileged community can have access to telephone. That privileged community, I mean including men, but women could not have the access. Even now, even if you go to very rural places, it is people think like if girls use telephone, they like they might be spoiled. So that kind of attitude still is prevailing. So, but hopefully it will change soon.
Yeah,
I also want to look at such kind of text mining project in future. So just
I think it will be, it will be really, really interesting. Then also ask, do recommendation algorithms have any bearing on how authors market, categorize, or even title their work?
Authors market.
So
actually, I had to select some of the writers' novels, like included more novels. That's because of their market, because it's easily available. maybe, yeah, that also one of the limitations, because I couldn't get much novels before 1980s. That's because lack of digitization and even lack of like just normal digital files that I can use OCR method. So even the Vendrop suites, like I found it an image file. Then I was sitting the like hours and hours, like using OCR method to turn into digital reading file.
Right.
I don't know whether that is satisfied answer.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine, Shanmu. I don't know, Ben, if you want to reply to that, but no, okay. So with I think yeah, so Ben says that makes sense, yes. So Catherine is asking, with the internet still generally being quite male dominated, what impact do you think this has on the experience of contemporary Indian women authors online, and do their social media reflect traditional views of a woman's role? That's a fantastic question.
That's really an interesting question. It's really interesting. So maybe, yeah, I didn't think this way, but this is really interesting to look at the changes. Of course, like there might be some female writers like Meena Kandaswamy, and she's very much active on internet now, and she's also very much supporting female writers and other like stuffs. Like she's very much feminist. So maybe if I go through some of the female writers like her in the social media, maybe get some answer for your question.
And Shan, related to that, are platforms like Goodreads popular there?
Sorry, I didn't get it. What is that name?
So Goodreads?
Goodreads, yeah.
Yeah. Are they popular? And the reason why
it's popular.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is because it's a bit connected to Catherine's question in that sense. I think it's quite interesting to see sometimes how people react in these platforms, right? Goodreads, for instance, tend to be quite good at just being kind, for instance, and creative, right? In terms of just, saying whether a person that read, a novel or something like that, like it or not, and so on. But other platforms like Reddit, can be super brutal with authors, right? Like people can just go and destroy them in the most horrible ways, right? And so I was wondering whether you had a chance to look at those platforms too, or not really.
No, I hadn't looked at, but I just looked at Goodreads only for studying about books. But something that sounds really interesting, we can use even text mining to collect all those comments of both male and female readers, and we can look at what kind of pattern emerges out. But yeah, we can use that as well, Goodreads and others subs like that.
Yeah, I think in the future it will be really, really interesting. You will probably need a third postdoc, Shanmu, to do that. But that's really, really fantastic. Right, I think those are all the questions that we have in the chat. If there is anything else from the floor, whether you want to ask something else, now is the moment. If not, I just want to thank you again, Shanmu. I know that it's quite late there in India. I'm really grateful that you were able to, just join us in the evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you so much for all the efforts, and you and other organizers put for this. I'm really looking forward to other DH Hangouts. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Shanmu. So we will see you then in the next Hangout, which is on the 26th, if I'm correct. But as always, we will send you the links and information about it. And thank you, Shanmu, again, for your presentation.
Thank you.
It was really fantastic. Thank you. Bye.